Hello YouTube, welcome back. This is part 2 of making an Anglo-Saxon Anvil. In this episode we're going to form the Bick and heat treat it. So this is the anvil as of the last episode. It is 4 inches tall by 2 inches long by about an inch wide. So these were quite small and portable things. So I left one side longer than the other, and that was to form the Bick out of it. So in order to do this, I'm going to first go over to a spring fuller. I'm just going to do a little double set down. And this is about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. It's quite narrow. If you haven't got a spring fuller, don't worry, you can just do a double set down over the edge of the anvil, like so. And that is purely to give me a mark to aim for the next stage. Now you do have to watch out doing this because you will get galls and carp mouths forming. So next bit, I will take a chisel and I will just come in from the top and chisel down. And I'm using the double set down along the side there as a reference guide. Now I'm holding the chisel at an angle, and that is so that one of the bevels is running parallel to the face which I'm cutting. And that will just ensure that I go down in a straight line. So, and I go to a depth of probably about 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch from the face. You do need that little bit of extra material because it will thin down when you work the Bick. Now what I should have done is I should have rounded that top edge of the face before chiseling it. And this did form a small gall later, but we'll cover that in a minute. So then I went in with a set hammer and just pulled that cut downwards. You can start to see the Bick forming now. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, that's a bit short for a Bick. But bear with me. You can see that gall starting to form there from not rounding off the edge. So with that cut out, I will head over to the radius of the anvil and I will continue that double set down and narrow down that Bick. And just slowly start forming it to a taper. Now, that gall that started forming, I took a welding heat on it and I welded it back up. Sadly, the battery died on the camera before I could show it. But it welded up quite nicely. So just continue drawing out that Bick to a nice square taper. Now I'm letting the heat die out because I want to planish this at the same time. So the last few blows of the square taper are at quite a dark heat. And here is the end result. So at that stage I will come up and I will just radius those corners, bring them down to 8 corners, an octagon, then obviously 16 faceagon, and then start rounding it off. It's a bit clumsy to hold on to, but it's worth the patience. So now this, because of the way I made this Bick, chiseling down like that, it means that the Bick itself is raw iron with just a touch of carbon steel at the top end of it. This doesn't bother me too much because we're not going to be wellying the Bick when it's in use. The Bick is purely for gently tapping rings and such like around it, possibly forming the sockets of arrowheads, etc. So with the Bick formed, I will just dress the edges, dress all the straight lines, make sure everything's nice and crisp. I don't believe that the Anglo-Saxons would necessarily have bothered doing this, but to the modern eye, if it looks unfinished, it looks like a bad product. So with all this done, I will head over to the vise and I will just file the face of the anvil smooth and get rid of all the scale and any clinker that might have pushed into it. Don't touch the Bick very much because that's pretty much there already. I have not seen any evidence of Bicks on Anglo-Saxon anvils being polished. So, with that done, I will tap down the fire to make it nice and dense, and I will just lay the anvil on top of it until it reaches a non-magnetic temperature. Now, it looks a bit hotter than it should be in this, but that's purely the video. It was actually a bright red. And the magnet isn't sticking to it, indicating that the steel has come above the Curie point. So I will, at that stage, just lay it down to air cool. So, 6 hours and 3 normalizations later, I did the same thing, but quenched it. Now, the next one I make, or the next batch of them that I make, I will probably quench in brine to get a better hardness out of the steel. This one came out usable, but I would like it to be a little bit harder. So with that done, I will grab some polishing stones and I will literally just scrape the scale off and get a nice, clean, smooth finish on that working face of the anvil. This is hardly my favourite thing to do, but it is well worth the effort. And here is the polished face. So we've hardened it, we now need to temper it. So with quite a low fire, I will just lay the anvil on there. I will just watch the colours appear on the face of it. And I'm looking for a nice purple colour, which you can see bleeding into it here now. So rotate the anvil, rotate it round to get the heat coming into all the sides of it. You can see it quite clearly bleeding in here. So back corner needs a bit more. And then when it's purple to your satisfaction, quench it off to freeze it. And here it is, heat treated and with a Bick. So here is the finished product with one of my Anglo-Saxon hammers. So it came out quite nice, came out better than I thought it would, considering it was quite an experiment. There's a few things I'll do differently for the batch production, but there we go. So thanks a lot for watching. Here is my list of Patreon donors. Thanks a lot, guys. I couldn't be doing this without you. It is wonderful to have all the support that you guys are giving me. And I will see you all on the next one next week.